All right. Welcome back to episode number 2 of Built with Jason White. I got my readers here because I'm going to need those. I have a very, very special guest with us today, and I was excited because we're going to talk some football. We're going to talk family. We're going to talk faith. Who knows what we're going to talk about, but I had to make sure I took my vitamins, drank some caffeine today so that I could keep up with Mr. Dave Rayner. What's up, my man?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Little intro of Mr. Dave Rayner. So he grew up in Shelby Township, moved to Oxford in middle school, played high school sports, played a lot of middle school sports too, I believe, but excelled in soccer, got a chance to be a kicker on the football team, and then it steamrolled into college where you kicked for Michigan State, and we're going to get back to some of this stuff. You were drafted into the NFL by the Colts, played, I think, 7 years in the NFL, decided to retire, and now started living the dream with his beautiful wife and kids and in the real estate world, entrepreneur life. So thank you so much for joining us, Dave Rayner.
Well, dude, I'm happy to be here, man. I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Yeah. So I want to get into a little bit about how you got, because I heard some stories. You sent me some stuff, but how you got into being a football kicker. But first, so how did it happen in high school? And, what did that look like, how you ended up getting the chance to kick for your high school football team?
Yeah, so growing up, I'll be honest, I didn't love football. I played soccer growing up from when I was probably 4 to I was a senior in high school. And I was playing football at Oxford for the varsity soccer team, and our kicker was the goalie for our soccer team. And I remember on like a Tuesday night game, he went out to get a ball, and a guy slid into him, and he broke his leg in that game.
Now, was that guy you?
Who?
You.
No.
Did you do that so you could be the kicker?
No,
just checking. All right.
The other team slid into him, and and I was like, shoot, we're out a goalie, right? Well, we had a backup goalie. Well, come to find out, they didn't have a backup kicker for the football team, and it was the week of the homecoming game, and our high school football coach was like, hey, come here, Dave, come here, give me the. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, I've watched some of that. I don't watch a whole lot of soccer games. I don't really like soccer, Dave, but you can kick a soccer ball like 3/4 of the field. He's like, you ever kicked a football? And I was like, no. He goes, well, I think you should. So literally, like Wednesday, I was like in the locker room. He was finding some random old helmet I could put on and trying to put pads on. And I went out to practice and literally, like when I say like winged it, like. He didn't know anything. Nobody on the team knew how to do anything. He was like, all right, you put that there and you kick it up here, and we kick it through the uprights, and you kick it off, you kick it up through the end zone. So I literally went from playing soccer on a Tuesday to starting kicking off in front of, in Oxford.
Quick turnaround.
I mean, our homecoming game, we probably get, 6,000-8,000 people. I mean, it's a big deal. So
man, I went just slightly bigger than the school I went to.
But I went from like 200 people, maybe 100 people watching a soccer game to like 8,000 in 2 days and not knowing anything about anything. So I have very limited, a little short story about soccer, because our school was small, right? Yeah. I grew up in Burton here, and so we didn't have a soccer team. But I played all the sports. I was a baseball player, football, basketball, and our church had a co-ed soccer team that they started. My wife was a soccer player, so she's like, hey, we should play this. And I goes, all right, cool. And so I didn't know a lick about soccer. I was learning it, and every time the ball would come to me, I'm throwing out my hands because that's just what I was used to. Yeah.
And they're like, dude, you should be our goalie. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I was such a bad kicker that anytime we had a goal kick, the defender would come kick it for me because I couldn't kick the ball. So that's my life in soccer right there. So I almost became an NFL kicker too. It's moral of that story.
Listen, this is what I'll say about that. Like when you've heard it said, like, you can either kick or you can't kick, like, that is the most true statement I have ever.
I'm a living proof.
There are people where they're like, oh, it's not that hard. And I'm like, why don't you come out and it will humble you real quick if you don't know what you're doing. But so that was my and then I played the rest of that year, and then sophomore, junior, senior year as a kicker, and I punted too, and ended up doing pretty well with it.
Yeah. So then. And so you were 4-year starter at that point, so 3.5-year starter pretty much. At that point, you were the goalie, never came back and decided to kick, or he was just like, I'm done?
He was a senior, so he was.
Oh, he was a senior at that point.
He was graduating, and obviously the leg injury took the whole rest of the season and everything. So then your junior year, I think it was, you said you went to a kicking camp at MSU. Yeah. So our coach, our high school coach, smartened up and was like, listen, I don't know what the heck to do with this, but he goes, hey, I signed you up for this camp up at Michigan State. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I think you should go up there. So my dad and I went up there that day, and I just had one of those days, man, where I was dropping bombs all over the place, and I mean, it was flying, and
Perfect timing,
I won all the kicking competitions and the field goal thing and all the stuff, and I was kicking kickoffs into buckets, and it was stuff I've never done before. But and the end of the camp, this guy came up to my dad and said, hey, we'd love to chat with you guys after. My dad was like, oh, cool, man. No idea it was Bobby Williams, who was the head coach at the time.
Ah, okay.
Didn't even know who he was. And I went into his office after, and they said, hey, we'd like to offer you a full athletic scholarship. And my dad was like, yes, we'll take it. And they were like, but you have to go back to high school, play the rest of your senior years next year.
There, Dave. Okay.
So he was like, my dad, was like, oh yeah, I guess we'll think about it, So yeah, I went back and played football and soccer my senior year, and then went up to Michigan State.
And then at Michigan State, you were a 4-year starter, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
4-year starter, and then you that was from 2001 to 2005. Is that correct? Or 2002, 2005? 4?
2001, 2, 3, and 4 I played.
That's what it was.
Graduated 05.
Okay. And you left there as the all-time leading scorer at Michigan State, and I believe it was 334 points or something like that, I think it was.
Sounds right, yeah.
We'll go with it.
Yeah.
That sounds right. I put it's in here somewhere, but then I got 334 points. Yeah. So at that time, you were number one all time Michigan State, and you're still. I mean, even after these years, high scoring offenses. The league's gotten a little more offensive. I guess not. Big Ten still kind of maintain their defense sometimes, but you're still 4th all time on the list from what I saw, which is a huge accomplishment. Let's talk about the college years and maybe a little bit about. What you learned during those years that kind of built you to be prepared to kind of take that next step into NFL. Was there something in particular or maybe what it looked like? Because that's a whole new ball game, I would think, going from, all 3 levels, but from high school to college.
Yeah. I had a very similar situation. So my freshman year, when I got there, like most colleges have your starter and have some backup kickers, and when you come as a freshman, you're usually you're being redshirted and you're kind of going to learn the ropes and all that kind of stuff. Right. And that's what I was told. And so I came in and was enjoying that. Man, it's cool, right? People are making you food, and you've got all the Gatorade you ever wanted, and all the cool things, and the weight room, and all the free swag, and all the stuff. And I remember I was watching Michigan State. We were playing at Northwestern, and we had a senior kicker, and then we had a junior kicker who was a backup, and our senior kicker had gone 0 for 3, he missed an extra point, and this is a tight game, so they bring the backup kicker in, and he misses an extra point, and we lost 27-26. And I remember I'm sitting at home in Oxford with my parents watching the game, and I get a call from our special teams coach.
Were you redshirted at this time?
I was technically, I was being redshirted. This was the third, I want to say the third game of the year, maybe 3rd or 4th game of the year. And our special teams coach is like, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm at my parents' house. You better be in town tonight. I want to see you. And I'm like, all right. So literally my parents drove me up that night back to school. And the next day he was like, forget these guys. They're out. What do you want to kick? Let's go. And that next game was literally the homecoming game against Iowa in Spartan Stadium.
This is almost like God just laying out the biggest stages for you.
Just saying it was and then you go from the biggest stadium, biggest crowd I ever played in front of was at the homecoming game at Oxford, which was and then 78,000 people that first game.
So this was homecoming, and you were playing against?
Iowa.
Iowa, okay.
So that was literally I had come in, so I had that week to prepare mentally, physically, all the stuff. The media was obviously, because there was a change, so you got all these interviews you're doing, all this stuff, and it was
Were you like a deer in the headlights?
Deer in the headlights, man. Because I had been in the stadium, obviously. I'd been on the sideline
Yeah.
for the first couple home games. But when you're like wearing, like you technically have your uniform on, but they don't give you a helmet, so you don't go in.
Right.
I mean, there's no pressure, nothing. Well, that first game was like, holy crap, you know. I remember this was funny, the first extra point I went out for, you know, most extra points you got to get your kick in under a certain time, or like you got guys blocking, right?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really rush. Dude, my first extra point, I was like stuck, like I couldn't like move to the ball, and our holder was like holding the ball. I'm like, you know, I went and kicked it, and it was like a 2-second get off, and it was supposed to be like 1.25 or something. So it was. I mean, if they would have rushed at all, it would have got blocked. But that was my first like.
Did it go in though?
It did. It
all
did.
Right,
line drive, just got kind of a shank, but made contact. And then, yeah, man. And then I ended up going on and playing. Started all 4 years, and we kicked, you know, a lot of long field goals because our offense wasn't very good. But yeah, I scored some points.
Yeah,
and yeah, had a good little run there.
Yeah, that's so we won't talk about the Michigan State-Michigan rivalry that we have going on right here.
But first game, my first year was this game. They believe it was called the clock game. I remember I missed 2 field goals in that game, actually.
Oh. So they were like, well, we're out of kickers,
well,
so we're going to have to stick with this guy.
The best part about it was like the clock game thing wouldn't even have happened if I would have just made a kick, because we were down, 2 points or whatever, and when Smoker run around and kind of threw it to duck it in the back of the end zone, and the clock, whatever. Well, if I'd have made a field goal, like it wouldn't even have mattered. But
okay. All right. No, so for those of you watching, I'm a huge Michigan fan. He's clearly a Michigan State fan. I mean, he was born into it. If you would only went to a camp at Michigan, it would have been.
You know what's so funny about that is I did go to a camp at Michigan.
Did you?
That next week, and had an equally as good day, and they said, and I quote, "You know, Dave, I appreciate it. We're all set right now." Oh. And then my time at Michigan State, they had like a run through of kickers at Michigan.
Yeah.
Like they had 3 or 4 different guys, and I was just like, hey, remember that time that I came there? And
I was going to say, because I'll be honest with you, Michigan, there's not too many. I mean, there's been a couple recently, but through those years, you're right. There's not very good kickers.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I agree. Michigan State has had a much better pedigree of kickers than Michigan has had.
Well, now you can say that you launched the starting trend of pedigree of kickers at Michigan State.
I feel like that's I mean,
there you go.
I'll take credit for that.
But because of the success that you had at Michigan State, you had an opportunity, and you got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts in the 6th round, and I want to highlight how big of a deal this actually is, because on average in the NFL draft, there's hundreds of kickers that are eligible for the draft, and only 1 to 2 on average get drafted. In your year, I think there happened to be 3, but you are, I mean, we're talking like the upper, 99.9% percentile of kickers in the nation to get drafted in the NFL. That's kind of a big deal. So what was that? I mean, were you expecting to get drafted that night? Let's walk through that night and what it felt like, or because that had to be like I feel like. I mean, I'm getting kind of goosebumps and bubble guts thinking about it myself.
I mean, it was one of those things that kind of like leading up into your senior year. You got your agents calling and people saying, "Oh, you're going to be the guy," and so that whole process was, I'll be honest, it was kind of fun. Like my parents thought it was super cool. People would fly in and take us out to dinner and do all the spiel, right?
Yeah.
And this was a long time ago. Now it's, I'm sure, way different because now you're negotiating like contracts in college.
Yeah.
Back then it was
there was no NIL and all that.
This was
2005, right?
So this was like, hey, you got a scholarship. You better be happy about it, which I was very happy about it. But so I signed with an agent and thought like, similar, like that year, me and Mike Nugent, who was Ohio State's kicker, we were buddies, and we were kind of like if anybody was going to get drafted, it was going to be one of you or both of you or whatever. Yeah. So he went in the 2nd round.
He did,
which I love me some Mike Nugent, but that was like a very typical Jets move there. I was like,
it's worked out well for him.
Sure.
Their drafting has been very, very.
Yes, but I was like, so when he went off the board, then it was like, man, I'm the next guy, right? So, and I remember that weekend we got like feet of snow, like we got a ton of snow at the end of April, and we were supposed to have this draft party, but like we got like a ton of snow and kind of snowed us in, so we had issues with internet. We had issues with like our cable and stuff was all kind of messed up. So I remember getting a call like in the 4th round from the Bears saying, "Hey Dave, we're going to take you with this next pick." And I was like, man, I haven't even talked with the Bears that much. And then it was like some random name popped on the thing, and it was like a linebacker. And
they're
I
like,
was,
so
he goes, "Oh man, I'm so hey, oh yeah, oh sorry, I'll call you back." Click. So I'm telling my parents, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to the nope, that's I don't know who that guy, but he's a middle linebacker out of like Clemson." And I called my agent, and I was like, "The Bears just called me." He goes, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So obviously, I went the next day. They did the first. Well, they used to do the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, 3 and then the last 4. Right,
Second
it was just
day,
a 2-day.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that first day, nothing. The second day, and got a call from Tony Dungy in the 6th round, and I had zero contact with them. I hadn't talked to their staff. They hadn't worked me out or anything. So it was kind of a surprise to come in. They wanted me to come in as a kickoff guy. And the kicker they had there was just a field goal guy that didn't love to do kickoffs. So, I mean, honestly, super, super cool process.
Yeah.
Privilege. The draft, even now to this day, I watch a ton of the draft because it's such a cool, exciting, fun thing of, you put a lot of time and effort and work into it, and it's fun to finally see that.
Now,
come
during
to fruition.
this time, like the draft and stuff like that, getting called from Tony Dungy, and I don't know, we haven't had a lot of time to talk. I mean, we've known each other for a few years now, but unfortunately, our paths don't cross too often. But was faith a part of your life during this time, or was it kind of it was there but maybe back burner, or was this something that like when Tony Dungy called? Because I know Tony Dungy being a man of faith. That I mean, I feel like that'd be like, oh, Tony Dungy. That's awesome.
And I'll be honest, I didn't know a ton about Tony. Yeah. And part of it was that the Colts weren't even they weren't in my top 5 teams that even had, because when I did a pro day at Michigan State, you've got, there was 8 or 10 different teams that had watched kick and all this stuff, and the Colts were not one of them. So they weren't on my radar at all. Yeah. But obviously, whoever's met Tony Dungy, that guy doesn't, he sticks with you. I mean, that's one of the best human beings I've ever met, probably the best coach I've ever played for. Just a super well-respected guy who doesn't have to yell. I never heard him yell or swear, which is unheard of in pro sports.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big swear guy, but he would just come in and command a room, and the entire and my rookie year in Indianapolis, we had one of the most loaded rosters in the history of the NFL. I mean, we had
that was Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison,
Marvin, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, Corey Simon, Bob Sanders, Robert Mathis. I mean,
just
you had
a stellar offense,
loaded team, and when he walked in, everything stopped, and guys would just come over, and he would just give the team. We had freedom to do things because there was not, there was respect on both ends, and that guy, to this day, I think is one of the best to ever do it. Even though he didn't win everything and had all but like as a person, as a human, second to none.
Yeah,
in that sport.
And the funny thing is I don't know if you always see that with a lot of coaches, but afterwards, after his retirement or whatever, now he does a little more, the talks. He's on the shows, sports talk and things like that. And you can flat out tell he lives his faith, even on TV and stuff like that. And you don't see that too often. And so that's what I was drawn to him too over the years. Just I'm like, Tony Dungy's a good guy. That guy, dude, is so you're in the NFL, and I know that had to be. Not only awesome but had to be pretty brutal, mentally exhausting, physically over the years. So tell me, during the 7 years, right, that you were in the NFL, or approximately 7 years, you played for how many different teams during that time?
So I signed contracts, I think, with 11 teams. Okay. But I didn't play in games. Gotcha. Sometimes there were a couple teams where I signed with where I went through an off season and there was an issue with a contract with a guy they were trying to replace that ended up not working out the way they thought. So they I was brought in to kind of compete, and then they realized, oh shoot, we can't really cut that guy because we're going to owe him this. And
gotcha.
I got hurt in a preseason in Washington that I ended up doing an injury settlement and didn't play there. So I had a little bit of some would call it a journeyman thing that used to bug me for a little while, but then it ended up being kind of cool because I got to meet just a ton of people. And then I used to get upset was I'm like, man, I got cut like 12 times. And then I don't remember who said it to me, but they were like, yeah, but you got 12 teams to sign you. So like there was this
That's
whole
what I was saying. No,
yeah.
you got hired 12 times.
Yeah. So like when you think about like getting fired, you're like, man, I got fired a lot, but I got hired a lot too, which is it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get hired in the NFL.
I would like to point out that in 2010, you played for our hometown Detroit Lions, and arguably was your best season in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think that you did not miss a single extra point that year. Nope. I think, and you were, if I remember correctly, like 81%, almost 82%, something like that.
12 of 14 or 15, something like that.
I think it was like 81.3 is what it equaled out to be. So, great year. Thanks for giving your best to the hometown. I appreciate that.
If I'm being honest with you, it was such an interesting thing to go in there because, I had so much admiration for Jason Hansen, right? Like growing up, that's a guy that you're like, he played for 20-something years for the same team.
Talk about a team that actually had, so before Hansen was Elam?
Or Eddie Murray.
Eddie Murray, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they had two kickers for like 35 years.
They were like the kickers. That was like Green Bay quarterback room was the Detroit kicker had the same process going where there was like, and that was, so for you to be able to follow a couple of probably arguably the two best kickers to ever play in Detroit. I think.
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. So what was that like during your NFL life and kind of, I guess, walk us through some lessons you learned during that time. You kind of shared that a little bit about a mind shift.
But I think it's one of those things that I learned that sometimes everybody else's advice isn't the best advice. I learned that very often, even for, like when I was picking an agent and doing some things. Like when I went to go into the NFL, my kickoff style was a little unorthodox. Mm-hmm. So I would kind of run and I would chop my feet a little bit, and I could, put that thing in the end zone every time. Well, my agent was a kicker for a little while. I had an agent team, and he thought, we should change that up. We should work on that. It needs to be a little smoother. Well, my first year, I struggled kicking off. Yeah. That was not a struggle for me.
Right.
So, but I felt like these guys know what they're doing, right? These guys know what they're so. Going back, I didn't need that, right? Yeah. I got there based on what I had done well for a long period of time. So I learned really quickly that when you get to that level, like yes, you need to listen to people, and there's people in your life that can give you advice. But I almost put my thoughts and feelings on the back burner to people that had been there before.
Right.
And I learned very quickly that like they're not in my position. Also, if like they're not getting cut, if I get cut, that's my livelihood. That's my thing. So if I did it all over again, I would probably have listened to my gut a little bit more at times. And I think I would have enjoyed the moment a little bit more. Sometimes there's this, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure that there's guys out there that like. There's this constant pressure of like entertainment, and you have to do this, and there's the guys that came before you, and all of the things that go with being a pro athlete, and especially a kicker because it's a very specialized position.
Right.
So I might get 2 shots in the game, where like a quarterback could throw 30 passes.
Right.
So if I go
nowadays, it's 50, 60.
If I go 1 of 2, they're like. Next,
Yeah.
So
I want to pause right there for a second because I think this is very deep and it applies to a lot of things in life, not just what you were doing in the NFL. You said something that kind of struck a chord with me, and I think it's important because something that I'm learning more recently too is enjoy the moment more and be present in the moment. And I think that for those listening, they're like, well, I'm not going to be an NFL kicker. Well, you know what? You're not, but you have a wife, kids, job opportunity, career, anything that you're going through right now, take a step back and enjoy the blessing that you have right in front of you because they pass by so quick. I'm moving into this new stage of life where I have a daughter that's moved out of the house. I got another one that's 21 now. And I look back and I think there was a lot of times where I should have been enjoying the moment and not worrying about oh, where's the next pay, or how am I going to pay for this, or whatever. But just
Right.
enjoy the moment, right? So
Right.
I wanted to pause. I want to share that. That's huge. So
Yeah. Well, and God gives you those moments that it's funny too, because I look back and my kids, my oldest is 13, so my last year playing was like she was just born, 6 months old maybe.
Yeah.
So I look back and I say things sometimes where I'm like, oh yeah, I played in that stadium, and she's like,
Yeah.
and then so it makes me think,
Huge
man,
thing, like,
that
yeah.
was cool, but I forget about those things because in the moment you're like, there's so much going on, and
Right.
you're just trying to do this and do that, and then you're on to the next thing and on to the next thing, and I sometimes feel like that in real estate too, where you sit back and realize how big of a moment it is you're in for the people that are buying the house or the
Right.
house you're selling or the paycheck you get
Yeah.
or what you can do with that. So that was, I agree. That's such a thing that because it goes by quick.
It does.
And
speaking of
Yeah.
kickoffs, so I read something,
Yeah.
and I thought this was really cool.
Yeah.
It was, and maybe I have it right, maybe I have it wrong, but I read, somebody wrote a piece on it, I think, and called it the most expensive kickoff in history.
Yeah, Oakland.
With the Raiders? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you were signed, basically for, I don't know, basically they brought you on the team. You played one game with them, but the offense was so atrocious. You got one kickoff and basically collected a $40,000 paycheck for that one. I mean, right? Something like that, I guess, is what
it was literally.
written up.
So Janikowski was the kicker for the Raiders, and I
that
know
dude had a leg.
I know Seabass, call him whatever.
Okay.
Dude, he outweighed me by like 40, 50 pounds. He was a giant.
He's a beast.
So they had thought, hey, he's got a hamstring issue, so they brought in myself and a couple other guys to work out to kind of see, hey, we don't know for sure yet if he's going to be able to go, but we're going to bring guys in and kind of a precautionary thing. So I went in there and had kicked really well, and they said, hey, we're gonna sign Dave. But I didn't sign right away. Like this was I flew in on like a Friday.
Okay.
So game on Sunday, because normally you come in on a Monday, kick on the NFL day off is Tuesdays.
Yep.
So you come in and that's where you do your workout and then you kind of get the week. Well, this was like, oh shoot, he hurt himself like on a Thursday. And so I'm in there Friday, don't sign anything. We're chatting. They're like, we're going to keep you overnight. Then we're going to see where he's at on Saturday. And if everything's whatever, we'll sign you on Saturday. So I stay the night in the hotel and sign Saturday at like, I don't know, 2:00 or something. And the first time I go into like, Shane Leckler was their holder.
Okay.
Was like the pregame in the stadium, and he's held for a left-footed kicker for like 10 years. I am not left-footed. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's dropped like 4 balls in a row, and I'm thinking, dude, this is like, I hope we don't attempt a field goal. Because I'm like, because I use this kind of stuff as like, I'm not getting that job, right? That's a job where you fill in, I can make some money, I can get some film so I can show it to other teams and say, hey. So I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be the Raiders kicker for the next 5 years, but like if he can't hold a ball on the ground, I'm going to look like a turd if I'm missing balls all over the place and field goals. So he's dropping ball after ball after ball. So luckily, we come in and I kicked the opening kickoff for a touchback, and we got beat 28-0.
Oh.
So it was Chiefs, right? I think the Chiefs we played. So that next morning, they're like,
team,
all right, Dave, Sebastian's good to go. He wasn't good to go, but they were like tight. They had to bring in they had some other injuries, so they needed to kind of make some roster space.
Gotcha.
So I got a cab to the airport on the way in, In-N-Out Burger. I was like, hey, can we swing through In-N-Out Burger? took my paycheck, took my In-N-Out Burger, and flew back to Michigan.
Best paycheck ever,
good,
right there.
Good money for one kick.
Go.
They weren't all like that, but that was fun.
That's awesome. All right, so you're done with football. You decide to retire. At this point, like you said, you mentioned, so you're married to your high school sweetheart. If I'm not mistaken, you're getting ready to celebrate 17 years coming up, I believe, right?
I think we're 18.
18? Okay.
2009.
Okay. 17. We're in 2026, right? Hey, if you're watching,
but I think May.
We'll go with it. Either way,
17 or 18 or
there you
20,
go.
25. It's probably 25.
And you have 4 beautiful children. I think 3 girls, 1 boy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So now that you're in this new world and you got your real estate license shortly after retiring from the NFL, but then you really dove in like 2015, which is a few years after you retired, something like that.
I kept it in escrow for a little while.
Okay.
And then 2015, I kind of got in full go.
Yeah.
It's a full-time deal.
And so now you are part of the what's the name? The Keller Williams Collaborative,
Yeah.
which is the what is the integrity team?
Yeah, so I'm part of the integrity team with Keller Williams Collaborative based in Lake Orion.
Lake Orion. So you've been in real estate now full time for over 10 years.
Yeah.
You are highly focused on family, on what a dad role looks like.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about that and the shift into 4 kids that are, because you said your oldest was 13 now?
Yeah, 13
so you have
down
four
to 4
under 13 years old.
Yeah.
So how is life right now as a dad, as a husband at this point in your life?
Dude, it is super busy, super stressful, but the most fun I've ever had. I mean, it's such a loud, energetic, just constant. I've drank more coffee now than I've ever drank in my life, and I'm okay with it, right?
Yeah.
Like I used to be anti-caffeine. Now I'm like, if I don't have a cup of coffee in the morning, we're gonna have a long day. But it is the most rewarding. I mean, I have great kids, man, and I know a lot of people say that, but like my kids are unique and love the Lord and are different and are a pain in the butt, but they are all thriving and doing really well in their own way, which I think is all you can really do as a parent, right? Like you can do so much, but then at some point they've got to, kind of help you out, and they're, we're in it, man. We're in the midst of some awesomeness right now.
And I'm probably about 10 years removed from that aspect of life as far as the business, travel ball, things like that. But I've always said that kids are the most exhausting and rewarding blessing that you'll ever have. And it makes it all worth it. Like I think, and you probably agree with this as a dad, that every exhausting, like stopping and just, being in that moment, it's like you might be exhausted. You might be like, how are we going to do this? But then you're like, man, I love this. I don't know what it is. It's just
because it's different, but it's like, like when you play, like for me, like you play pro sports, you have all the accolades and all the things that go with. That's great. Like real estate, you do whatever, you got money, but like these are like human beings.
Yeah.
That God created for you and your wife that like have the best and the worst in you and have the like cool things, and they have mannerisms that you're like, I didn't teach him that. I didn't show them that. They like do things that are so, I mean, good and bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That are just like this personal accolades, so to say, that are like in a person that just blows my mind that like God lets us be a part of that, right?
And the beautiful thing is, and this is something that I've learned over the years, is what we're doing and what I'm seeing kind of come to fruition now is you're training up individuals that are going to reach people that you'd never be able to reach. And that's the beautiful thing for God's kingdom. Like the Bible says that, a man with his quiver is full, right?
Yeah.
Man with children has a full quiver. And so what it is a fiery dart. You can shoot that arrow a long way. And I have my older daughters now are bringing people to church that I would have never been able to reach. And so that kind of thing, like you said, it's more rewarding than any personal accolade that you could ever get, I think.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about what that looks like, what you're focused on right now as a dad, what you're striving to accomplish, and maybe some things that are coming up in the near future before we wrap up with my Forged 5, where we go over some quick questions here.
Yeah.
So,
well, listen, I think the constant struggle with an entrepreneurial business is like it's the balance of home and work, right?
Right.
So I think it's really cool that with real estate it's very flexible, but it can also take over your life, right? Like there's got to be boundaries put in place, and especially in this time of year when, being honest, this is when you make a majority of the money you make for the year, right? Is when,
especially
when
here in Michigan, right?
Yeah, the seasons, and I always joke, I'm like, we eat during the summer, and then in the winter, it's like, is ramen noodles the only thing we can do for the next 3? So, so I think it's really important to make sure, and I even catch myself all the time, like, sitting next to my kid and like sending a text out or whatever, or doing something, or taking a phone call, and
I think we're all a little guilty of that.
Yeah, and I mean, kids they know what I do for a living, and I think it's really we're in a time right now where I'm trying to be really present and making sure, and obviously with the freedom of real estate, like I can go to I can make every softball game if I need to.
Yes.
I can make everything, which I think that was something growing up that my parents, went to everything. They went to every game. I just always saw them in the stands, and that to me was such a cool, important part of the process.
Yeah.
That like I told my wife, I was like, I want to do that, right? I want to be
that guy.
Yeah, even if my girl is or my kid is not good at the sport we're playing or whatever, like her seeing me in the stands, I think is such an important part as the athlete, looking out and knowing that there's support there.
I can attest to, as someone whose parents did not make games, unfortunately, it is a big deal. My mom tried, but then she moved away, and I got that whole story or whatever. But my dad couldn't. He was working second shift, so he never could come to a game. And so to have your parents there I think that that's huge that you're striving to, and that was the one thing I did with my daughter when we went into travel. Like I was still playing sports.